Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today at the B2B Future Forum. And today's session is actually a very special one, as it marks the final webinar in this series. Over the past sessions, we've explored a lot of different angles of B2B commerce, and today we're actually closing things out with a topic that's probably on everyone's mind right now. AI in B2B commerce, hype, reality, and what you should actually be doing by 2026. And now I would like to hand things over to Jason, who will guide you through today's webinar topic. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the intro. Hi, I'm Jason Nyhus. I'm general manager here at Shopware. I've been in e-commerce for 25 years. And it's really this moment that we're living in right now is incredibly special. And it's like nothing we've ever lived through as an industry. So in order to kind of guide the conversation, here's the agenda. We're going to talk about agentic commerce and how it's different from AI and how it fits with AI. We're going to talk about AI applications for the mid-market. We're going to have a conversation around AI for sales efficiency, which is where I think the real unlock is. We're going to talk about some quick wins versus some long-term plays to run. And then we're going to have a live Q&A if there's questions. Don't feel pressure to have any questions. All right, let's bust right into it. So the first conversation we should have is there a difference between Gen AI and agentic? And the answer is there is a difference. And if you think about generative AI, this is kind of how most people use ChatGPT. It produces content and insights. You ask it a question, it does a bunch of work, and it generates something for you to kind of consume. Like create me a funny picture of me in lederhosen at Shoptoberfest, as an example. Really a lot of power for utility in generative AI, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But agentic, I like to think about it like this. There's a bunch of tasks where you have to go into system A to do something, and then system B to research it, and then system C to input information, and then system D. Agentic is a system that can crawl across many systems, remember the context of what it had at step 1, apply it to 2, then go to 3, then go to 4, and perform these tasks, which classically were always performed by people. And we like to say there's a lot of blue-collar work in e-commerce done by white-collar people. And what that means is we have these really, really smart people who are going in and cutting and pasting from multiple systems to make things happen. The big unlock for agentic is it's going to allow a lot of automation of things that are classically a lot of mundane cutting and pasting across multiple systems. So when we talk about Gen AI, it's how do we make you become an approver instead of a creator? And we talk about agentic, it's how do we take the things that are necessary, but in the way of competing with your top strategic priorities. Okay, so that's kind of the fundamental difference, agentic versus generative. Now let's go a little deeper. Next slide. All right. What's really interesting is this moment we're living in for B2B. Classically B2C is more on the bleeding edge of what's happening with AI or with anything, with mobile, with social, with marketplaces, and now with AI. And B2B, I think, has always kind of sat and said, let's see how this goes and apply some of the principles that we can. And I think that's probably going to be true for B2B and agentic and AI as well. The thing that I see most companies thinking about now is demonstrative through this iceberg slide. You have the things, these buzzwords that everybody in the industry is talking about, but below the waterline, you have the real complexity of adopting it. Things like change management, things like giving access to systems to a Claude bot, as an example, and what happens to that information and the company's secrets and priorities. And what happens around compliance and trust frameworks and all those kinds of things. So this is the reality that we're staring at this moment. You have the hype and the power of agentic and generative AI, but then you have the realities of what's below the waterline. So this sets up the conversation nicely for, well, how should businesses think about adopting these two pieces of utility inside of their business? Next slide. All right. Another important rubric is this concept called the B2B digital maturity model. And what's really interesting is if you apply this time frame at the bottom, where in 2000s we started with digital capabilities and e-commerce, and people laid these digital foundations. Well, this is when people got essentially basic web presences and simple logins, limited ERP connection, but they were online. In the 2010s, there was this advent of punch outs and portals that allowed for things like real-time pricing, reordering, etc. In the 2022, when ChatGPT came out, everyone was talking about, wow, how do we apply this to B2B? And you get things like personalization and digital sales rooms and all these other stuff. And then in today's world, you've got this agentic uh, thing taking over. But what's really fascinating about it is, yes, that timeline is true. All those things happen, but the adoption curve is very, very different. So we still see in B2B businesses, most are in 0 and 1. And that's not just across Shopware, that's across all of the e-commerce industry. In fact, our clients are more 2, and some are even getting to the 3 stage. So I think it's really important as you think about what should our company, or what as a merchant or a distributor, how do we think about the adoption of agentic? Really, you got to plot yourself on this map and say, where are we and what is next? It's going to be pretty hard to skip all the way to 3 if you're only at 0. So there's steps you'd need to take along the way. Okay. Next slide. Now let's talk a little about AI applications for B2B that will help you move along that maturity curve. We already know today that AI is delivering a tremendous amount of value. It's delivering it in places like personalizations and recommendations. Now, for years, these unbelievably great tools like Nasto, who's a partner of Shopware, or HawkSearch, these guys have been using machine learning for a decade and have now transitioned those services into AI services. So inside of our ecosystem, you'll find world-class leading partners who are delivering AI for B2B to deliver better personalizations and recommendations. The same thing is true with intelligent workflows. A lot of the things that make businesses really special is their unique processes on the way that they deal with orders and how they support them and how they deal with the timing of payment and releasing the products. The ability to utilize intelligent workflow automation really saves your sales team a lot of time and frankly, manual work. And we'll unpack that a little bit more later. The same thing is true with how you deal with complex quoting and orders, as well as how you get real-time insights pushed to you as opposed to you going into a classic dashboard and running your business the old way. So there are things today that if you're a B2B business through either Shopware or the platform you work and or the ecosystem, there's AI that delivers immediate utility to the way you operate your business. Okay, so to me, this is the kind of phase 1 of how to adopt. Now, go ahead, next slide. Perfect. So we talked about Gen AI and how, the proxy would be using ChatGPT to do creating some great images for you. Well, at Shopware, we take a very pragmatic view as to how generative AI can make our merchants more efficient. And so what we've done is we've applied generative AI to almost every aspect of how you would operate your e-commerce sites. So writing tools as an example. You can, instead of writing what your description is going to be or any of those things, you can click a little star button inside of the Shopware admin and it will automatically generate them for you. And instead of becoming a writer, you now become an approver and editor of the content. Same thing is true with how we have customer experience tools, how you can summarize reviews, how you can export your data automatically, et cetera, and even create images dynamically to match the context of your experience. Okay, so the real unlock for generative AI is when you can apply it at every one of the manual steps that it takes to run e-commerce, from content to promotion and everything in between. So the goal of this is to essentially get back 25-30% of the time spent running the e-commerce site back to the drivers of the business to let them do more strategic and important things. Next slide. Now let's talk about sales efficiency. For most B2B organizations, the most expensive resources in the business are these sales reps. And for the most part, how do I say this? When the web was introduced many years ago, a lot of these brands, there was this creation of channel conflict that the digital channel competed with the sales reps. Now, it's not always, but in some cases, that's the case. A customer who comes through the digital channel is lost to the digital team forever, attributed to their marketing activities, and the reps are commissioned less or not at all. And so there has been a classic divide between digital and the sales team in B2B. This is the moment where the digital team and the sales team can come back together. And it's all around how do we use things like agentic commerce, improve workflows, and other things I'll talk about to win back the trust of the field, because applied correctly, it can actually make the sales reps more successful. They can make more money if they adopt these tools. So let's unpack that. Next slide. Today, the average sales rep spends roughly 30% of their time selling. 30, 35, whatever number you want to use. This report comes from Salesforce, a report called the State of Sales. It's published every year, and you can pick your industry and your country, and you can see, on average, how much time sales reps are spent actually selling your products. And here's the net. Most sales reps are right around 30 to 35% of their time selling. It means they're spending 2/3 of their time not selling. Well, if you unpack the time not selling, it is in traveling, it is in service tasks like following up on orders, and it's in administrative tasks like updating the CRM and the ERP don't sync, so you have to manually intervene. But it's a tremendous amount of inefficiency that is now put on the burden of the sales reps, your most expensive resource, not selling. Okay? So the question is, how do we take the things that they're responsible for? The sales rep has to create the value, build trust, understand the product categories, understand the client's needs, understand the client's budgets, the margin of the products, etc. And how do we use AI to deliver levels of efficiency of things they no longer need to care about every day? Because the reason they spend 67% of their time not selling is usually held in that blue box. It's a place where AI and agentic commerce can deliver new levels of efficiency to get them time back to sell. Okay? So let's talk about how. All right. So the first concept that we have inside of Shopware, and all of these things are they utilize AI and agentic commerce in some ways, but the utility is called Sales Agent. And what this utility means is most of the time spent by sellers is dealing with two things: rebuys and modified rebuys, meaning the customers already have an account, they've already purchased in the past, they already have a price list they're up against. And what this allows, the sales agent utility that Shopware has, basically allows them to streamline all the orders by taking all the other information away, and allows them to do really quick, clean admin around rebuying and modified rebuying. And it saves roughly 30, 40% of the time of going in and creating everything as a new order. You'd be surprised how many companies treat every order as a new order as opposed to a really efficient buy and rebuy process. Okay. Next slide. The next thing, we talked a lot about how sales reps are spending an enormous amount of time doing administrative work. And today, if you interview the sales team, what you'll normally hear is they have a ton of manual tasks. They have to manage campaigns. They have to understand new pricing. They have to understand how to take an order and send it to certain systems. And there's a tremendous amount of manual processes to support the selling of your goods. And that's why Shopware has this utility called Rule and Flow Builder. What it essentially does is it automates, based on triggers and rules, all the information of who can buy, at what price, shipped a certain method, applied what discounts, and send all of that information to whatever system you want at any time. And so a real use case would be a customer would show up on the website, request a quote, or look at a bunch of products, and that information could immediately be sent to the sales rep to follow up, and all through automation through Rule and Flow Builder. Again, so there's elements of AI built into this tool that allows for these decisioning to happen in real time and get the information to the people so that they can process it really, really quickly. Because we know in sales, the time kills all deals. So Rule and Flow Builder on average should save sales reps roughly 4 hours a week of just administrative things, because the system can automate it for them. Next slide. And this is one of my favorites. This is a utility that's uniquely Shopware. It's called Digital Sales Rooms. And today, what we know is that the 80-20 rule almost always applies. Sales reps will make 80% of their number on 20% of the companies they're doing business with. Okay? But if you flip that, what it really means is that 20% of your customers are really well served by these sales reps, and you want them to travel to those customers, to overservice them, to sell them, etc. But what it really means is that the 80% of your customers are underserved. It means those are the most likely to not get a personal face-to-face meeting. It means the ones that those customers are the ones your competitors should target and you're most likely to lose. Those are the ones that probably don't know the product categories, the catalog you carry. They're the ones who probably don't know the pricing and promotion that you offer. So it's really, how do we develop a utility for those sales reps to serve their long tail better? And that is the digital sales room. It is just like it says, it is a digital meeting that combines the power of a Zoom meeting plus e-commerce, plus calendaring, plus chat, plus all of the different things. Most importantly, all of the power of all the items that they've past purchased, what they're eligible to buy, at what margins, all in a face-to-face meeting. And so the 80% of your customers who don't get the majority of your sales reps' time get an in-person-like experience virtually. So this allows your rep to essentially have 10, 15% more meetings with customers. And so it expands your Pareto logic from 80%. It expands your customers that are served appropriately by your company. So this is a really big unlock. And sales leaders that we meet with really love this, because this kind of crosses that digital divide between the digital take customers direct and the sales reps selling their value. This is that bridge. It's a really big deal. Next slide. And Copilot, data insights. This is a really big one. Just for the record, I believe we had the Copilot name before Microsoft used it. So we kept it rather than, whatever. But Copilot is a really big deal, because what it does is it is a natural language interface that allows you to talk to the system and glean insights around what's happening inside of your world, as opposed to having to produce these kind of static dashboards. This information can be conversationalized, pushed to you wherever you need it, however you need it. And it's very context aware. So the results we've seen is significantly less requests, way less manual analysis, and simply it's a more efficient way to deal with your e-commerce experience. So Copilot Data Insights is an AI product by Shopware, and it's driving enormous adoption in our client base. Next slide. All right, Shopware Nexus. So this is a really big deal. So Shopware Nexus builds in all the power of the agentic services we talked about, how a system can go across multiple systems and tie everything together. Here at Shopware, we think the agencies who we partner with are the truth speakers and the most powerful force at driving change inside of merchants. And this Shopware Nexus tool allows them to deliver projects more efficiently. It allows them to reduce the cost of a Shopware implementation. It allows them to automate a lot of the integrations that are done between these systems. Ultimately, what happens is this should drive down the total cost of running an e-commerce site, which should allow you to take those dollars and drive them either to the bottom line or to reinvest them in sales and marketing. The early results, this is a relatively new product for us, but we've seen 73% less development effort in launching Shopware sites for our merchants, 46% lower integration cost, and frankly, it allows for internationalization much quicker, which is really good for the guy who runs North America, for all of our German prospects. Yeah, so Shopware Nexus, if you haven't heard about it, it's an agentic solution that really makes integrating with systems really, really automated, really seamless. Next slide. All right. So the next conversation we'll have is around a quick win versus a long-term plays. So our take on this is the things you got to do now is really around product content generation, using AI summaries for your sales teams, smarter business decision through answers for your store's data, as well as taking an e-commerce, or excuse me, this is something new. This agentic commerce readiness scanner is something we've just launched, and it's really, really powerful. In fact, I'm in New York today with 30 different CEOs of agencies and tech partners, as well as Stefan Hamann, and we're rolling this out today. But this agentic commerce.shop will allow you to basically put in your company's URL and look at it like an LLM. Okay, this is really important because we've been classically trained that the only thing that really matters in the world is Google and to some extent Bing. Well, now you've got these LLMs trying to understand the context of what you're selling. This commerce readiness scanner will look at your site through that lens, okay? And will allow you to understand what changes you have to make to really be discoverable by them. And what's next is all around AI automated reorder workflows, as well as customer portals driven by agentic solutions. So the here and now versus the prioritize next. And with that, I will hand it back over.
Thank you, Jason, so much for your insights. Before heading over to the Q&A section, though, just a last reminder, the B2B e-commerce compass, of course, is also a super valuable insight tool that you can download for free using the QR code provided here as well. Thank you so much for joining the last session of the B2B Future Forum. I hope you got some relevant insights in this session as well as the other ones. If you would like to have a look at the other sessions that we already had in the past, you can find all the recordings on our website, and we will of course include it in your email with sending this recording as well. Then I would say that's it from our side. Jason, just handing it quickly over to you as well.
All right. Danke vielmals. Ciao. Auf Wiedersehen. If you have questions and want to talk, ping me. I'm pretty open, just like Shopware. I'll talk to anybody about anything. So thank you for investing a little time with us today. And Auf Wiedersehen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Goodbye.